Maharashtra has got 6 districts where coastline passes through. If you take Mumbai and Mumbai suburban districts as 2 districts, then we have 6 districts in Maharashtra where the coastline, sea coast, exists. And along with sea coast, there are creeks and creeklets, mangroves, and lots of complications along with that. Needless to emphasize the fact that rapid urbanization clubbed with industrialization of the state, one of the leading states in industrialization in the country, it is creating pressure on the coastline of the state. The coastal regulation zone CRZ notifications for the first time were issued by Government of India, Ministry of Environment and Forest in 1991, as you all know. And then it got amended and notified again in 2011. The ministry is also learning through the process, and since has evolved since the first notification of 1991, and in 2011 a lot of things were incorporated which were not there part of 1991 regulations. Importantly, how will you decide the CRZ areas? And there the definition changed. It changed almost in 2004 itself. But so far as notification is concerned, it got effective with 2011 notification, and that is that the salinity of water was considered as the CRZ area for the CRZ areas, and not the bund lines and reachability of sea coast waters, as in some cases. This has created problems for some of the cities in our state, and we have to bear with that, because this salinity criteria has got some scientific basis to it, whereas bund doesn't have. Artificial bunds you can create and stop seawater ingress in some of the areas and say that this is the high tide line, or this is something which is very, very artificial in nature. And that's why there are some of the areas which were outside CRZ, especially in CIDCO areas in Navi Mumbai in Maharashtra, are going into the CRZ areas now, and that is creating problem for the policy makers, for the urban planners of this new city. And there are a lot of issues about that. This has been represented to the ministry also. Ministry has said we'll consider it, but that is one issue. Having said that, it is very clear that there are pressures on the coastal line, but just because of the fact that I am Environment Secretary, I am not saying so. I was, for the larger part of my career, sitting on the other side of the fence, and I was handling urban management in the city. And we used to say that generally those who sit on the other side of the fence, they say that all these environmental laws are creating hindrance towards development of the cities and all. That time also I have been an exception to this logic, and I have been a supporter of the fact that development can take place along with better environment, and that's what we call it sustainable development. And we should manage our things, manage the city, manage industrial development in and through environmental laws. So this is my basic premise from which I will start, that urban development, urban management, as well as industrial development of the state can be and it is possible to manage it in and through the environmental laws, and they should not be treated as hindrance to development at all. Now, with this basic premise, if I start, then you can urban planners, urban managers, as well as others, they can find ways how to deal with different laws and still be still bring in development, desired development in the city. If this is true, then on the other side, on the other hand, this is also true that all these environmental laws are evolving and they are yet not settled in this country. I've been to IRS Chennai, I've been to CES in Trivandrum, and tried to understand in my last 6 or 8 months of tenure as Environment Secretary, tried to understand how the CRZ lines are drawn, how different lines are drawn, and it has got a very, very scientific basis on which these lines are drawn, and the CZMP at present is being made. The first CZMP, which was made as per 1991 notification, is undergoing change through a process, and the new CZMP in every state almost. Tamil Nadu is bit ahead of other states, but all other states are like, few states like Gujarat is far behind in preparing the new CZMP at present. But Maharashtra is somewhere around, most of the districts have prepared their CZMPs, which will go through the process of public consultations, and then they will be approved by MCZMA to forward it to, recommend it to Government of India for final approvals. So this is the status of the new CZMPs. The laws are, as I said, environmental laws are evolving, and that is also true in the field of coastal zone management also. That's why there are so many deficiencies also in the CRZ notification 2011, and let us accept it, that there are certain deficiencies. The 2011 notification, even if it was framed and finalized after a lot of consultations and sending it to different state governments, still there are a lot of deficiencies in the notification. But as I have said, it is an evolving process, and ministry is, I have found at least, ministry is very open to new suggestions and ideas, and that's what is expected from this gathering, that you will certainly throw some light on these problems and suggest to the ministry some amendments so that it becomes a better evolving law which does not stop development, which helps development in a sustainable manner. Sustainable, where the generational equity is maintained over a period of time. For example, if I have to give example to this, let me tell you that why a CRZ notification prohibits and differentiates between two buildings if it has been made, if it is dangerous, declared dangerous before a particular date and after a particular date. And that's there in the Act, notification. That a building which has been declared dangerous or dilapidated before the date of notification will be considered for redevelopment under a particular special provision. If it is declared after that, then it will not be covered by that special provision. It will be dealt with in a simpler, in a different provision. So, two buildings adjacent side by side, will be dealt with differently even if they are in the same CRZ, even if in the same CRZ area, CRZ category. So this is something which that's why urban managers always question that what is the logic behind all this. Then the other thing is that they say that the notification itself says that if it is a new development, then the development control rules of a particular date will be applicable. Now, development control rules of a city talks about permissibility of certain floor spaces, how much you can construct. Now, this type of thing, why a CRZ notification should deal with? This is something which can be argued in favor and against also. But my point is that if I say that it will create zero pollution load, then CRZ should be satisfied. CRZ notification should be satisfied. Environmentalists should be satisfied with that. Why should I be questioned if the existing use of the building is residential and it is going to be used for commercial or vice versa if the development control rules permit? Because the CRZ notification says that the present user will not be changed. What is the intention behind this notification? Intention, to my mind, should be very, very simple, and that whatever is going to be built upon or constructed or developed in the CRZ area is not going to adversely impact the coastal waters, coastal marine life and coastal biodiversity. I think that should be enough. And from that point of view, if such restrictions are being imposed, then it raises certain questions. Why say that in America, in United States, you have in Manhattan, by the side of the sea and river, 13 floor space index, whereas you stop in Mumbai a floor space index of 1 or 1.33 or 2 or 2.5. If the city wants to develop and grow, it doesn't have land. So vertical development is only possible in such a city. Then you should be saying that you are going to have, say, zero pollution load. You are going to have the CRZ notification, to my mind, should have insisted long back that no development will take place in the city if you are not managing your sewage 100%. You are not treating your sewage 100%. You are not treating your solid waste 100%. We will not allow any development in the CRZ. This type of restrictions, I think, will be much better. You will not release any grey water in the sea coast area. Your stormwater drain system will not bring in solid waste and sewer to the sea. It's there that we should be insisting much more, and we should be stricter than on insisting upon FSI restrictions and other things. I'm just provoking you to think on these lines and think like we as Dr. Rakesh Kumar said, that we are the first state in the country which has formulated river regulation zone policy, which is basically the industrial location policy by the riverside, you can say that way. It regulates the location of industries by the riverside in particular areas and category of industries which will be in which area and how. The intention is like the CRZ intentions only, that the river water will not get polluted. And if that is so, then if an industry is not creating pollution, why should I be stopping that industry to come up by the riverside? And it is where that we all have to think about. We have to, since I said that it's, and it's a fact that it's an evolving, this thing, the environmental laws are evolving in this country. We need to improve upon, build upon this, and go ahead on that, so that we do not hinder development, but at the same time protect environment in a particular way. So my point is that 1991 to 2011, I don't think that Mumbai Municipal Corporation has even reduced 1 liter of sewage going to the sea in these 20 years. In fact, it has increased because the population has increased in the city. So what is the use of such a notification if it is not able to compel a city to treat its sewage properly, grey water and black water, and then release it in the sea? Complete sea coast of Mumbai is polluted, highly polluted. It smells. The smell is of sewage. But laws are like, it's not the mistake of only the notification says so, that you will prepare an action plan, you will prepare this thing within such a period, and then you will submit it. But what about implementation? The implementation part has become very, very poor because the punishment is too less, too soft. And again, there are loopholes from which the others come out. Prosecution is, if you go through Environment Protection Act of Section 5 or Section 15 and Section 19, even the developers in the city, they come forward and say, "Saab, please issue us prosecution notice and then clear our proposals." What does it mean? It means nothing. Prosecution will be lodged in the court. Maximum fine is 1 lakh of rupees. For a project of 100 crores, 200 crores, 1 lakh rupees is nothing. So this type of punishment, nobody is scared of such a law. So the punishment should be severe, but it should not be on flimsy grounds. It should be really for something like 100% treatment of sewage or 100% treatment of solid waste management, so that the environment doesn't get polluted because of that. The coastal water, coastal area doesn't get polluted because of that. The main threat to the coastal area is from the releases of industrial effluents as well as sewage, urban grey water. So we should be stopping these things first. So my point is that basic issues like this should be dealt with. And then one more issue which I will be trying just to throw this point before you to deliberate and then come up with your suggestions, and I'll be interested in knowing what are those suggestions, is that awareness about the technical issues of CRZ is very, very less in this country. The level is very less. Even I have found people in government, outside government, who are implementing, they just make a taboo of things instead of reading and knowing. And not many books also have been written about CRZ and coastal management zone and all those things in a common parlance, common language, so that common people can understand that. So it's there that there is knowledge gap which is there, and it should be handled as soon as possible, so that society comes to know the ill effects of sea pollution, coastal water pollution. Today only in time, Indian Express, I was reading in the newspaper, in the plane, it talks about Devband area in Maharashtra, where fishermen are planting mangroves because they are hooked to crab cultivation. Now, this mangrove is giving them additional livelihood. So that's why it should be protected. And but at the same time, I saw one order of Ministry of Environment and Forest in which Metro Line 2 of Mumbai, MMRDA was asked to construct the car shed area over a stilt portion because it belonged to a CRZ1 where mangroves were there. When I went through the papers and I got a report from, it happened before I joined. So when I went through the papers and got a report, I found that there were sparse mangroves in that area. And it is like a open table land. So I realized that if what MMRDA should take care of is that in the car shed area, whatever the effluent which will come out of the washing of racks and machineries and all in that area should be treated properly before getting released to the creek. But at the same time, sparse mangrove does not create any problem if they are removed and some compensatory afforestation for mangrove is done somewhere else. So this was posed to Secretary MOEF in one discussion, and he immediately agreed. He said, yes, this condition we can remove and we can put it. You will, just for your information's sake, this one decision, if it is taken by Minister of Environment and confirmed, it will save 500 crores to MMRDA. This one decision. So which is not taken, and MMRDA also was saying that why should we go and talk to MOEF, they don't listen, they don't understand our problems. But this initiative was taken by me, and I was happy to get the reaction of Secretary that this is one thing which we can immediately agree to. So one is that one does not communicate it properly, one does not understand the laws and the other side of it, and where you understand both the things, you can go and present it in a particular way. I think there is a way out of things, and that's why I said in the beginning that development is possible in and through environmental laws and regulations. But at the same time, they need improvement and should not become archaic in nature and should be realistic, and we should decide what is our motive and we should fulfill that motive. This is my humble submission here, and I would like you all to deliberate on these issues, and if you can give some technical inputs and suggestions, good suggestions for the future amendments to these laws, it will be, you will serve a good purpose. I am happy to be here. Very few such technical sessions are organized on CRZ, especially on CRZ, as it does not concern the whole of the country. It concerns few states only. But for those few states, it's crucial because it's the sea only which has been traditionally the link to the world for trade and commerce and all. But if you see, I go and see the Bombay Port Trust's coast, the quality of water, it is such a bad quality. Thick layer of oil is there on that. Whereas if you go to international ports, they are all clean waters. So it's what makes them so clean and what makes us so dirty, so polluted. So this is where all the implementing agencies also have to think about, take care They get all their proposals cleared by environmental authorities and regulations, but then later on don't implement them properly. Don't implement those suggestions and conditions and terms and conditions properly. Here in this house also, there are few such project proponents. I will call them also to call and invite their attention to this fact that the implementation is very, very slack in that field, and terms and conditions. And see, environment department per se is also a very, very nascent department. It's a very small department in every state. Doesn't have that much of machinery to go and see. The pollution control boards were created only for water pollution in the beginning, to control to implement water pollution control acts. But now the same machinery is employed for all other acts also, and they are falling short of it. So these are challenges before the government also, before different machineries also. Implementation is a big challenge. I have just touched upon it, but one can speak a lot on that. So, but I'll stop here, and if there is any question I can answer, but I would expect you that in your technical sessions, please consider these issues and come up with your suggestions and solutions. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I think you have sort of raised a whole range of very, very pertinent questions. I'd really sort of like to understand your view on the whole issue of monitoring. Any thoughts on what the monitoring mechanisms could be? Because when somebody says that you are committed to, let's say, treating something or ensuring that you are not releasing sewage, wastewater, etc., to ensure that that is so. And I think this country has had a very, very rich history, like you rightly pointed out, with the Pollution Control Board, its functioning and the way it has functioned. If you go to any of, let's say, the GIDC sort of areas, in fact, from a disaster perspective, the entire Surat-Vapi belt, internally they've got, sort of, Gujarat government got a vulnerability assessment done. The reports are under wraps, but every district collector has a vulnerability assessment report, and the Vapi-Surat belt is sitting on a time bomb. Now, I think the situation will not be too different from, in other states when you look at industrial, the MIDC, GIDC type of areas. So, I want some sort of reflection on what ails the monitoring mechanisms as well. Because, and Pollution Control Board is a case before us. I think there are a lot of people who come from that sector around this table who are here. So is that giving us an insight into the way monitoring will be done in the country? So some thoughts on how does one tighten, how does one improve, how does one sort of enhance that process?
Monitoring, let me say, that is the weakest link in this whole chain of environmental management in this country. Because of the punitive sections are not so strong. B is that since the inception of, say, pollution control boards, state pollution control boards in different states, and in between we had this thinking of slimming down the government size. So we never thought about challenges and how to meet those challenges and increase our manpower and workforce for that. Because of these two reasons, there has been inadequate manpower also with different state pollution control boards. Now, the environment impact assessment notification also came up in 2006, 2004 and 2006 also. We are one of those countries which have promulgated it late in the day. But still, and then the power has been decentralized to state level expert appraisal committees and environment impact assessment authorities at the state level. But if you talk about the monitoring mechanism, there is nothing. The regional offices of MOEF on paper are supposed to monitor the implementation of the environmental clearances being granted by even the state level bodies. But they are also ill-equipped, inadequate staff at that level. But as I said, it's environmental laws and its implementation is a very, very new concept in this country, recent concept in this country, and it is evolving.